Welcome back to the Fear
and Beer podcast,
where we discuss all things Halloween Horror Nights, horror movies,
and just a little bit of beer.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Shamus.
Like scary movies.
Uh-huh.
Here's Johnny.
It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Did you miss me? Aren't you drinking?
I never drink. Why?
Before we get into tonight's episode, we want to remind all of those listening on Apple Podcasts to drop us a 5-star review. It helps us grow as a podcast and build our audience. If you're listening on Spotify or any other platform, follow us, and don't forget to share with friends and family who might have a little bit of the strange in them as well.
And while you're on those socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, be sure to find us, Fear and Beer Pod. Give us a like, share, and you can always message us. We love to interact with all you guys. It's officially Horror Nights speculation season.
Is it early? Was
A couple weeks.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I think it feels
a
like
little
it's
bit
a little
early.
early compared to what they usually
early.
do.
We will discuss in a second.
We say they. We're obviously talking about
Horror Night Nightmares
dropping
their spec map on us. So we have a lot to discuss. So let's just get right into the beer, and then we can start dissecting all the information that we got. Obviously, tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day. So we got some Guinness Nitro Cold Brew Coffee. 4% alcohol, kind of weak.
Oh, it's Guinness.
but
it's also Nitro Brew Coffee, which means I'm going to be up all night.
So let's see what this is all about. Obviously, we tend to usually do some micros. This is definitely a macro.
We also get to show off our terrible Guinness pour skills. At least I know I will. I don't know about you, but
just let this thing settle. These are the ones that you always have to kind of let settle a little bit, but let it feed in there. But I can already smell some of the coffee coming off of this thing.
I don't know if I've had this one or not, to be honest with you.
No, I don't.
Usually, see, the thing about me, I've said it before, me and Guinness, we
I smell it. It's just like coffee beans. I can smell that coming
like
up
Guinness,
through.
and I know as a born and bred Irishman, kind of, being Irish in my blood, I should just love Guinness by default, but I've never been a huge, I have to have a Guinness on St. Patrick's Day. Obviously, you do have one, but I'm not one of those guys that, pounds them to feel like that I'm Irish.
Fit in.
I'm going to pound Guinnesses. It doesn't make you Irish if you pound Guinnesses. It would honestly make you more Irish if you just did shots of Jameson. Yeah. Because most Irish people, as far as the ones I talk to,
18 kids, start a fight.
Right. So
eat a potato.
So it's not to me, it's not something I go to a lot, but nothing wrong with it. It's good stuff. Obviously, Guinness is Guinness.
Oh, this is super coffee. I don't know if you'll like it. You're not a big coffee person.
I'm not a big coffee drinker at all, so I'll probably have to struggle with this one.
This is heavy on the coffee, that's for sure, but it's got a good head. Very dark, typical Guinness. Looks good. So, let's just get into it. We've been gone for a little bit. We had to take a little bit of a break. We had some busy work weeks. We had some family in town, so it was a chaotic schedule, and we figured, hey, we're just going to pump the brakes a little bit. Maybe some news will come out. That's kind of what we had in the back burner. We had some episodes planned. We were possibly going to throw around the idea of doing killer reviews on that new Texas Chainsaw movie. We were tossing the ideas of doing Leprechaun 2 for killer reviews for St. Patty's Day, but I watched that the other night, and fuck, that thing is terrible. It is so fucking bad. It is not, and this is a micro killer review. This is I'll give you my little thing. It was fucking terrible. And it wasn't even a good terrible. It was a bad terrible. It was just,
oh wow.
It wasn't fun. It would have been cruel to put you and Kevin through that, because we've done bad movies and they're funny and they're fun to talk about.
This one wasn't funny.
There was nothing there. It was just visual diarrhea with quippy one-liners from the little leprechaun, who same guy, Walton Davis or Warwick Davis, same guy, but other than that, it has nothing to do with the first one. It doesn't connect at all to him coming back, which it's a stupid horror movie. It doesn't need to connect, but fuck, that was boring. That was a struggle. That was tough to watch.
That's why we gotta get to Leprechaun into Hood.
Yeah, well, Leprechaun in Space.
That one may actually be better.
Leprechaun Back. And those are the movies that are those ones are bad but fun to watch. This one was just bad. That's my killer review.
I believe it.
I give it 0 for both. Zero
Did
for
you
the
pay for that movie to watch it?
I have the 8 movie collection.
Oh, okay.
So it was $20 for
So you did pay for all of them. But
yeah.
It's not like you went out of your way to pay for this specific movie.
No, I did not. So that's the little recap of the last couple weeks of our live. Coming up in June, we will be at Spooky Empire. We've been getting some cool stuff. We got some earrings that we posted. We got a little bit of merch being made up. We got some shirts coming. We also have partnered up with Hazelton Handmade. She's a friend of the pod. She actually made us our little bottle opener.
She's got a whole bunch of stuff
and we got a
coming.
bunch of stuff that we're going to be bringing there. A lot of tumblers, a lot of stuff like that.
And it's not all Fear and Beer either.
No,
so
it's gonna
like,
be
if
like
you guys like Halloween movie style merch and stuff, come check it out.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of
Lots
stuff
of
there.
to do.
So obviously, as we get closer, we will be dropping more information. We're going to be giving a lot of stuff away, raffles and all
Who
that
knows?
stuff.
Might be doing a quick on-site.
Yeah, we might have to throw some
podcast
episodes
episode.
up in
We'll
there
see.
for sure. All right, so I figured the best way to go about this episode first was obviously to dive into the spec map, but I figured first we should start with looking at the version 1 of the spec map for Horror Nights 30 that they dropped. Their version 1, just to see how it lined up to what we actually had at the event. Obviously, we had a pandemic in the middle of when they dropped this to when it actually came to fruition a year and a half, 2 years later. So obviously things did shift around, and I can't really say if it was because the year got moved or things changed, because generally things do change as we go along. So the speculation map is by no means 100% accurate. This has been proven, but they do have a very good track record of keeping a very high percentage of them. So just going off this version 1 spec map from Horror Night Nightmares for the 30th event, the one that we did go through this past fall, they had Beetlejuice on there, which we know is true. They had Universal Monsters The Bride, which was true.
Yep.
They had Bedtime Stories, which translated into Tooth Fairy, so they were on the right path there, so that's 3. They had Terra Crentis on there, which we discussed. That merged its way into a Scare Zone, so we'll kind of give it like a half point or so. It was there, just got moved around. The infamous, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, the Billie Eilish house.
Didn't happen,
but it was a house. So it was going to happen, but because of the year off.
Right. So there was going to be a house there, but she obviously, because of the year and everything else, just kind of fell
switched
through.
there. So I'll give him the credit.
I'll give him that
because
it was going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, as far as we know.
Dungeon of Terror, which we saw no reference of at the event, so that one was off. The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, that did not happen. The Haunting of Hill House, that
obviously happened. Yep.
Legendary Truth, Cary, Ohio, which is kind of like, I mean, it happened.
It was almost like they almost split it off, because there was the Cary house, and then there was the Legendary True.
The Case Files.
Case Files.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like, I'll give that credit. I'm not going to give it 2, but I'll give it credit because it was definitely right. And then Gremlins, which still is like continuously rumored and asked for,
but it's never been there.
So just looking at that, there's a good track record. This is, I mean, obviously we know that they're good at their stuff, and they know something.
If I remember, when we spoke to, it was either Justin or oh my god, Holly. Sorry, Holly. One of them had mentioned that these guys usually are pretty much on the right track every year. So the years that they've done it, from what people have told us, is that they're usually kind of right on the money for the most part. And like you said, they definitely hit it for that first one, almost not completely, but pretty close.
And I'm curious to see if
we almost want to go back through all of them to see how much changed and what they removed that actually ended up happening.
Yeah, I mean, we could go back to 29 and stuff like that too, but
I just mean from the spec maps on this year alone.
Oh, yes,
because I'm sure things have changed. They shifted a little bit. Yeah, especially pre-pandemic to post-closure.
Yep. I would have been curious to see, like, if there was no pandemic, if we had 30 when we were supposed to, how accurate that would have been.
But then it makes you wonder too, is like, where do they get the information from? I have to know where they get the information from.
I'm very curious. It's like,
because they were
it's like they're anonymous.
Yeah, because like there was no indication that we were getting Haunting a Hill House. I mean, obviously Netflix is usually a thing, but at the time they had only ever done Stranger Things, right? Yeah. So like nobody really knew, is there a Netflix deal? Is there something where they're going to do multiple things? And then it came out afterwards that there is, but yeah, so it's kind of interesting how they get this information.
I'd be curious.
I'd be interested to know who they talk to or what they look at, because how much can they let leak without it becoming a problem?
Yeah, so I guess we should dive in to this speculation map.
I guess so.
Wow,
it's pretty crazy.
It was an exciting day.
This is totally unexpected. That's what was cool about it. Is like I don't know about you, but I mean when you sent me that post, I was like, oh,
a little bit early. Yeah. So actually, what I forgot to mention was the 30th Spec Map version 1. I believe the date that it was dropped was like March 30th. So we're about 2 weeks ahead of when that one dropped previously.
Okay.
So
yeah,
sort of in the range, but I know people were getting restless. Oh, and before we dive into this too, obviously, so there was a lot of talks too on the Twitter sphere or the forums and stuff like that. There is another reputable Twitter user, Legacy, and they were posting clues about possible houses, and you're gonna think this is interesting, I think. And I'll sum it up. Oh, did I mute myself? Oh, I'm unmuted. All right, I unmuted myself accidentally.
Start over.
So Legacy was posting clues to certain houses, and they were just like numbers, weird numbers. And if you copied and pasted them into an Excel sheet, it gave you a date.
Oh.
And somebody found a pattern that all those dates lined up to premiere dates of American Dad episodes, in which those episodes referenced something.
So
it was like a whole thing.
So how do you...
I don't know how they found it out.
Who are you people?
I don't know.
Like, how do you...
I
Like, no,
don't
again,
get
no
it.
shade. I mean, that's crazy that you actually went to that. But what made you think, let me look at American Dad? Did you check every, like, cartoon?
I don't know.
Every show?
I have
how
no
do you
idea.
figure that out? Like, how do you... How do you come across that?
I have no idea. But so those started coming out, so I feel like that's why maybe they dropped their map.
Whoever wants to take credit for dropping that, find out, like, hit us up. We want to talk to you, like, on the podcast.
Yeah.
We'll interview you.
Like, why?
I
Why
want to
did you
know,
think
like,
that?
how, not simply because I think it's cool that you found that, but I need to know how you thought to look at American
What was
Dad
your
episodes.
process?
Yeah, what was the process of thinking that?
Oh god, but yeah, so
that is really cool. Yeah.
So because of that, I think that the rumor mill started, I guess, early, but also this is cool because this is our first time, like this is our first time since we started this podcast that we get to talk about an event that is hopefully in October, because when we did our
That's
first
true, 'cause when we
speculation
started,
maps, it got bumped a year and a half. So this is our first time like hitting the spec season ground running, actually having an understanding of what we're doing, sort of. We have setups and
you know,
all stuff.
knock on wood, we should be fine this year, considering that
we're in the clear.
everything we're pretty much in the clear for the most part.
Yeah. So let's get into this. So
I'll tell you this much to start out. I think compared to the last spec map, or let's just say the first spec map, not one of these am I on. I think every single one of these I'm actually somewhat excited for.
Nice.
For different reasons.
Okay.
And I'll just say that one of them you and I may have called just a little bit. Just saying. Now, if it actually happens,
hoping
we're taking credit.
There's a couple that we've.
Yeah, I mean, depends.
Two, maybe three.
There's a couple that I'm not quite so sure about, but
Yep.
I'm excited for. But otherwise, let's just talk about it and see what happens.
So
and
let's
then we'll
go into
from
this. So we're going to start from the A, which is obviously when you're walking in first. The A location is where Universal Brides was last year.
Yeah, which would make sense why this is here.
And they're keeping that, supposedly, as Universal Monsters, The Mummy versus the Wolfman.
Okay.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts. First one being, obviously, since I've only ever done this a couple times, now this is only the second event I've been to. No, first event. Second event? First event.
Second
event.
Second event.
I'm losing track of time.
Would have been your third if we had one.
It would have been my third, if we had 30. Both times I've gone, both Universal Monsters houses I've liked. I haven't fell in love with.
Yeah.
I think what was the first one was kind of like
just monsters,
the
Universal Monsters.
Right? I think I preferred that one, which is going to make my opinion about this a little bit different and a little bit weird.
Yeah.
In the sense that I'm not so sure about the whole versus thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of versus movies for the most part.
Freddy versus Jason.
Other than Freddy versus Jason.
Alien versus Predator.
I've said before, Freddy versus Jason is a good movie. We need to stop pretending like it's a bad movie. Stop it.
Stop it.
Just stop. Alien vs. Predator, bad movie. But that's besides the point. I'm not a huge guy on that. I think that would rather them give either the Mummy or Wolfman their own house.
Yeah, doing just strictly
do
Wolfman,
strictly one of them.
Mummy, yep.
And let's just honor each monster every year. Like
Yep.
every year, give us a different monster, and we'll just honor that monster with their own house.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that it will be bad. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm just not sure because I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you know if they ever made a Mummy versus Wolfman movie?
I think so.
Did they?
I believe so.
There's so many monster movies and spin-offs and stuff.
My knowledge in like the MonsterVerse, like especially the classic Universal aspect, my knowledge is not like completely there. I believe this is something that was probably one of the movies at some point. I could be wrong. Correct me.
Well,
I'm
that's
sure
why we
you
have
will.
a phone, so I'm gonna look it up.
You correct that. But I'll dive into that a little bit too. So for this, I'm excited. Obviously, I'm excited because up here I have my creature, and over here I have my Invisible Man, which seem to be left off again. So I'm hoping that maybe by them doing the Mummy versus the Wolfman, we can kind of check the boxes off, and then get my boy Creature from the Black Lagoon the love that he deserves, because Creature needs to be in a house. That was my favorite part of the Universal Monsters house. The Mummy versus the Wolfman, it's fine. It's a Universal Monsters property. I'm excited for them. They always are really good houses. The Universal Monsters movie, Universal Monsters house at 29 was a huge hit. But the only thing, and this isn't the only house that's on the spec map that's troubling me, the only thing I really don't want to fall into now is a very predictable trend of events. So at this point, it looks like, and I know I'm going to jump around a little bit, but on this map, it looks like we have our token Netflix property, we have our token Universal property, we have a token musical artist, we have a token Netflix property. It's almost like now it's becoming to the point where maybe 5 to 6 houses next year, it's going, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a Netflix, you're going to get a Monster, you're going to get a couple, you're gonna get 2 IPs that are relevant, you're gonna get a musical artist. Like, you can kind of fill the boxes in a little bit quicker now versus back in the day when it was like, I have no idea, all 10 are a mystery. It's not like they're being pigeonholed by a certain streaming service, a certain like series, so on and so forth. Yeah, that's the only thing I fear.
I think I would agree with you a little bit. I don't necessarily think that well, I'd have to go back and look at the different events. Do we know that it hadn't already kind of started to do that anyways? Like,
we have. I mean, in the past years with Stranger Things.
Right.
That's when it started. It's like, you have your Netflix property, you have your sort of goofy house. This is the 3rd year of Monster movie.
Yeah, and I think you and I are different in the sense that you and I both agree that we would rather see more original ideas than IPs anyways.
Correct.
But since they're probably obviously not going to do that because it's their IPs that bring in the crowds.
That's the money.
For the most part. Yep. That's their money. That's their money shot. Not to use a crass analogy, but that's basically what it is for Universal.
Oh my God! I'm going to Horror Nights.
That is what gets people in the door. It gets a lot of the normies in the door in the sense that people that don't follow this stuff like we do.
Yep.
They enjoy the originals. I don't want to say that people go just for the IPs, but there are people that go just for the IPs.
That's definitely what draws you in, and I think the majority of Horror Nights fans, especially people that have grown to love the event in recent years, have been brought there because of an IP.
Right.
The first time I went to Horror Nights
because of an IP.
Because Freddy vs. Jason.
Right.
At 25, when I was still living in Massachusetts, I just heard of it. I was like, and I hadn't even known about what this event was, and that's what drew me there.
Right.
And then it drew me to the next year, and then the next year, and then I moved down, and then I become more entangled in the world of HHN. So the IPs get new fans. So for anybody 100%. That's like, oh, this person only came to HHN30 for Beetlejuice, let's fucking get them.
Well, that's
how you start.
Don't gatekeep.
That's how you start as a fan. You know,
right.
if you say that you weren't brought in originally by like an IP, you're probably lying.
Right.
Because that's what gets put out in media.
So not story time, but like, the more you know time from Nick and Shamus. Don't hate on people for what they like, please. So like, if someone says that Beetlejuice was their favorite house, and you go, "Oh my God, Beetlejuice wasn't the best house there,"
that's cool.
Actually, enough of that. Just I know that not everybody does that, but there are certain people that gatekeep.
I mean, Pumpkin Lord was the best, but
well, yeah, I mean it was, but that's in our own humble opinion, which is always right. But
yeah, of course.
No, but I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, getting back to this specific one, I think your point is fair. I'm less concerned about that, only because
they're fun.
I'm kind of one of those people that likes to be, oh, I love this property. I want to be immersed in this property.
In this one,
It
yeah.
doesn't always work. Obviously, Texas rings a bell.
Yeah.
I mean, it was better than I expected, but it
Yeah.
still wasn't one.
It's still fun,
It wasn't It wasn't wowing me in any way.
What you expected is what you got.
Right.
That's
And
kind of
again,
it.
we can't really rest a lot of our laurels on last year, anyways, because last year was kind of
Still funky.
It was a weird year.
Yeah.
They had to kind of work with what they had. So, this year I'm excited because I think we are still getting a lot of different properties, and we very well could have seen Stranger Things again.
We could have,
on this map, and we don't as of right now. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing to think about for the moment. But otherwise, to finish quickly on my thoughts about the Mummy Wolfman, other than the fact that I'm not sure about it being versus, I am still excited. I'm a little confused why they wouldn't potentially see it being where D is, because it's next to the ride. I would think they'd almost, if they're going to have Mummy, why not tie it into the ride
Right
in some
there.
way?
Yeah.
Because to try to get people, because the thing is, like, they open certain rides, Mummy being one of them at the event. Why not try to push people as they come out of that into the ride? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, this is a spec map, so they're just kind of throwing darts at a dartboard at the moment when it comes to placement. So this one could end up being somewhere else, but right up front also makes sense because that's where it was last year. So I could see why they probably picked that. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I
You're
am
right.
excited. It does seem like a fun little idea. And just doing a quick little search, I don't know if they did have a Mummy versus Wolfman movie.
Yeah, I
They
didn't see one
They
either.
did have Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, and obviously we don't really need to dip into Frankenstein for 3 years in a row.
I hope not. Well, that's
when
the
the
thing.
monsters
It's like,
are so vast in
there's
selection.
enough monsters and enough stories you can tell with all the different monsters that you don't need to do Frankenstein for a third year in a
Yeah.
row. Even though we get it, it was Bride of Frankenstein, but still he was a part of it. So,
All right,
B.
So
this
it's
one I
two-
think is potentially your
down to B.
potentially
So
your favorite one on the map.
this is so. If you've listened to this podcast,
Yeah.
you are very correct in assuming that this will probably be the favorite of the podcast, whether it goes my way or Shamus's way, because there are three, but two possible things that come to my mind. So we are looking at B, Seaside Village as an original. So when I see Seaside Village, my immediate thought is Dead Man's Wharf.
And mine is too.
And that is like, if you've listened to this podcast,
We all know.
it is my bread and butter right there. Like, I want them to crank in that salt smell. I want them that cold mist, that foam smell.
It
I'm here
lends
for
itself. It lends itself to a house,
And
which is why
that's where Yeti was. It's the Jimmy Fallon area. That's where
they obviously have the.
what was it? Oh, that was what Texas
That's what
last
Texas
year.
was, but with Yeti being there, they obviously have the ability in those big
Good temperature
buildings
control.
to do temperature
Give
control.
me the cold.
Yeah.
So that was my initial reaction. Does the Seaside Village necessarily mean Dead Man's Wharf?
No.
But I think that
But
if you look in the
Seaside,
past,
Wharf, it all
Yeah.
kind of fits the same.
if you look in the past, the village throws me off. If it was Seaside Town, then it would be more like Fish Town, stuff like that. But if you look in the past, they do a good job of taking successful scare zones and translating them into a house, especially ones that were popular. This one was popular. I believe it was Scare Zone of the Year. Also, we saw their characters return last year in Eddie's Scare Zone.
Yep.
So there is some relevancy of this coming back. The other thing that I thought of, and I mentioned it to you, is this could also potentially maybe be a Vikings Undead.
It could be. Yep.
Because Seaside Village, the Vikings come in on ships.
Yep. And then-
Village kind of fits Vikings nomenclature a little bit more than it would a
If you think of it that
Seaside
way,
town-wise. I'm looking
would-
deep into something I shouldn't, but
I would throw it back to you in that sense that it doesn't mean they couldn't play with time a little bit with Dead Man's Wharf and go back in time
Yeah.
when it's more of a village.
Correct.
And the legend begins at that
that's
point.
where, yeah. So either way, I think that as of right now, this is probably like I think this is probably, if I had to displace my pleasure on everyone else, the most anticipated.
I was gonna say, why don't we wait till the end of going through them?
We'll
and
hype
just-
them up in a couple episodes. Like, we gotta sit on this and we'll and we'll do a hype list. But
my point is, like, before we end this episode, we can at least give our most anticipated one.
yeah, but that's
Obviously, we know what your most anticipated
yeah,
one
right.
is,
But maybe.
we haven't gotten through all of them yet.
But yeah, so that's my initial reaction to what this could possibly be, and I really hope that this stays put. Obviously, there's multiple things that will change or could change or can be redefined a little bit.
Remember when we saw Mannequin Theater first,
and we were like all in.
Oh shit, that sounds
awesome. And that worked
awesome.
out well for us.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it changed in the sense that it's not mannequins, it was puppets, so it was a little different.
Yeah.
House is still good, but I think you and I first thought of just actual mannequins and how much those are creepy
like how
as
we
hell.
could play with that.
Yep.
But anything else that you think on
No,
Seaside Village?
I totally agree with you. I think that obviously these original ideas are harder to speculate a little bit because they're so out there. But like you said, when I saw that, immediately my mind went to Dead Fisherman Guy that you like so much. I forgot that it was called Dead Man's Wharf. But
and check out our Icons episode from way back in the day. Team up with HHN, because my pitch was to create a new icon called the Fisherman and have them, and I tied it in with that whole scare.
So there you
zone.
go. That's what I was thinking of. But yes, this immediately, that's where my head went. I didn't even consider Vikings or anything like that until you said it. I just think Seaside Village. I immediately think fishing boats, fishing people, docks,
lobster crates,
lobster crates, all that good stuff. Especially like you said, playing with the fog and maybe some temperature stuff. That's where I think this is going to go. I don't really have any. I could see it being something else.
And they could just have it as a normal Seaside
it could
original,
just be something
not
original,
translated
completely,
to Dead Man's Wharf.
But I doubt it.
But yeah, if you're doing like
I doubt it. They brought him back
and see stuff like it would make too much sense.
I can't imagine why would they bring him back, put him in Eddie's scare zone, and not do something with him as a house if that's what they're planning on doing. I can't imagine this being something completely new.
Yeah.
It's too convenient.
Yeah.
But,
all right. So moving along now to C, and this is where
a big one.
Tooth Fairy was.
This is a big one.
And this is what we were watching. This is Fear Street.
Fear Street, which we
talked about it a couple of times. This thing made the most sense out of all the Netflix properties. We talked about Netflix properties. I think I may
have said that I wasn't too sure it was going to be there.
Yep.
But I'll concede that if this happens, I was wrong.
Yeah. A couple episodes ago, we went through various Netflix properties and determined which ones we thought would be like likely, most likely, least likely. I think I put Fear Street as my, maybe not most likely, but I think it was up there with my very likelies. And it just makes a lot of sense. Stranger Things, I mean, do we need it for the third year in a row when the season hasn't come out yet, when they have another winning property?
Yeah, 3 movies to pull from, too.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to have this. I hope this one doesn't change, and before we finish, we'll kind of go through and point at stuff and see what we think will get tweaked and stuff, but we'll just go off of the map as of now. But yeah, I'm in on Fear Street. This is going to be cool. It looks like it's going to be, if they have it at sea, inside one of the studios, inside one of the sound stages where Tooth Fairy was, so that gives them a lot of room to play with.
Yep.
I'll be curious to see if they do. I hope they just do Fear Street, keep it as one, and do all 3 decades and get it done with. I don't want to see this. I don't want to turn it into a 3-year thing.
Yeah, don't stretch this out. And not that we're not excited for it. I think we talked about it when we talked about
excited.
The Netflix properties,
but not for 3 years.
But yeah, like you said, don't lock it down for 3 years. I'm glad we don't see Stranger Things on here. I'm really glad. I love Stranger Things. Don't get me wrong, but we already did it for 2 straight years. There's no reason to bring it back.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what they felt. They probably felt like there was a little bit of fatigue after the back-to-back year.
Yeah.
The reception on it wasn't the best. 1 was held up to a high standard. It was amazing. It was good. And then 2 was like, maybe they got the hint.
Yeah.
They read the reviews. When you fill out those questionnaires when you're leaving the parks and stuff like that, they look at that feedback. And that, I would assume, was on there that, hey, not as, your big IP didn't really deliver.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll
and they probably
ward them away.
they may have been thinking that way anyways. They just needed confirmation because I'm sure to them too, it's like we don't want to get stale.
Yeah.
We obviously, and think about it, you don't want the design team to get bored either.
Correct.
Like, we're doing Stranger Things again. Like, that's a great movie, great show.
What else can we do?
What else can we do? Yeah. So yeah, no, I think it's good that we're doing something different. Like I said, I think it's not the Netflix property I would have picked. Mm-hmm. Like I said in the Netflix episode, but I also didn't say. I don't remember. I have to go back and listen to it. I think I may have said not as likely, but that's only because I'm jealous and I want something different. But otherwise, the movies are great. Loved the movies. But like you said, I do hope it's not a 3-year thing. I hope it's let's do all 3 movies in one house, get it over with, and be done with it.
Yeah.
because it doesn't. You don't need to stretch this out. It's a good enough standalone for a house 1 year, and then be done with it.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to D, which is going to be where Icons was, another soundstage, and that is The Last of Us.
This is probably the most second most interesting one on the list, as far as I'm concerned. Have you played The Last of Us?
I have not, but I have it purchased. I have it outside.
Oh, do you?
I played a little bit of it because I remember the reception of The Last of Us Part 2.
The game is really fucking hard, so be prepared to get angry at it.
I'm not
repeatedly.
very good.
It is very difficult. I recommend playing on like easy story mode just to enjoy the story, because the game is fucking difficult.
I've heard amazing things. I remember the reception when The Last of Us Part 2 came out, and I was like, I should probably get this. And I feel like video games at this point in my life are similar to books, where I purchase them and I'm like, oh, this sounds so cool, this looks real cool, and then I just don't pick it up.
Yeah.
Like when I play video games, I play like Madden for a game, and then I'm like, or done. Or I play a franchise. I play sports games, like campaign games, especially ones with like intricate controls. I will play it for a little bit, and then I kind of put it off, and then I forget how to play the game. So then I get upset and I stop playing it completely, because then I'm like Jim from The Office when I'm jumping into the wall trying to shoot. Like, I just can't figure it out. But I understand a little bit of the bio, but you seem to know a little bit more. I think it was some post-apocalyptic thing.
I know enough about the game. I've played it a little bit. I didn't beat it. I didn't have a PlayStation very long to have played it. Unlike you, I am still pretty much a gamer. Mm-hmm. But again, that's because I'm boring and I have no life, and I don't have.
I wish I had the attention. I just don't have the attention span. I'm all over the place, or I'm just fucking around on my phone.
But we also have to remember that what we haven't talked about yet is that there is an HBO series coming out
that'll be
based on the game.
2023, I think it was.
Is it? Because it was 2022 the last time we checked.
I think it did get bumped a little bit, which makes
this a little bit which makes it a little bit strange.
Yeah.
That it's on the spec map.
And that's the thing too. It's like, what do they pull from? How true are they going to stick the series to the source material?
We don't know.
Question marks.
I'm sure it'll be close, because they've learned that video game anything, if it's any other medium, it has to at least have the essence of the video game, and can't be Doom trash like the Doom movie was, which had nothing to do with the actual game, and everybody's like, what the hell is this garbage? So they have to like at least follow it somewhat. Mm-hmm. Without giving too much away, it's very much a zombie type thing. Yeah. Not saying it's like, zombie virus, people get bit and eaten. It's more like a fungus type thing that's taking over people's brains and turns them into zombies.
Okay.
It's pretty scary, pretty spooky. The game itself, it's more built on relationships and acting and characters. That's what you really kind of get sucked into. Yeah. It's almost like The Walking Dead, kind of, in the sense that like the bad guy is more of like secondary to the actual character world building. Okay. So if the show follows that at all, it'll be good. But then the question is this house? Are they speculating that it's going to be based on the game or the movie or both? So we really can't give a whole lot, because again, I don't want to give. I don't know a lot about it. Plus, I don't want to give away anything that I saw in the game, especially if anybody hasn't played it yet. But I'm interested to see what this one is like. I'm not super. Like, it's not one of the ones that I was like, oh dang, like that. Yeah. I think of that.
It's a name that I know.
It's a name you recognize,
and that's the thing I'm curious about. How big is it to the outside world?
It isn't. Okay. That's why. I don't want to say it is or isn't. It's big in the sense that if you're a gamer, you know what it is, or if you're an active gamer, you know what this is. But if you're someone who plays Cut the Rope on fucking your phone, you're a gamer, but you're not. You don't know. You may not recognize The Last of Us. If you're just a casual gamer here and there,
maybe not.
You may not know much about it. So that's why I'm thinking that the only reason it's even on here is because there is an HBO show in the works. But because it's not getting bumped, or it's getting bumped, it seems like to 2023. Like you said, if that's true, then I don't see why this is on the spec map.
It's a very big question mark for me. And when we discuss what may come or go, we'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would almost want the show to be out to get the major population to say, hey, I want to go see that, because the show's really good.
If it was on HBO and it was like it lined up time wise, I would say, okay, that makes perfect sense.
Right, yeah.
So maybe we see it next year. Maybe this isn't, and it gets bumped into some random zombie house or something.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, they could maybe they are
It's early.
planning on doing it. Who knows?
Early.
It's only March, so we'll never know what happens till it gets closer. But
Moving along to E, which is
this is weird.
Which is over still in what looks to be the MIB tent. So I think it's still up in the air right now. I haven't heard one way or the other if the Fear Factor stage is coming down or it's not
Yeah,
coming
we don't
down.
know that
I think
for a
it's on
fact.
hold, so I think the MIB tent will still be in play. So this is obviously where
well, all they have to do is reroute the queue a little bit if they're doing work on it.
yeah. So we'll see. But this is where they have the Curse of Pandora's Box.
And it's not an original.
So
What is this?
sort of. So this is a Hollywood original. So this is a house that was done in Hollywood twice.
Okay.
So they did it in 2019, and then it returned again this year. I haven't watched walkthroughs. From the name of it
never
on
heard of it.
maps, I was excited about it. I think it deals a lot with essentially opening Pandora's box. It has a lot to do with like Greek mythology, going through the gates of Hades. Like,
So I guess I'm wondering. So then it's kind of like Bloody Mary in the sense that it's not really an original. It's kind of an IP.
I would say just straight original because it was just a Hollywood original.
Because they don't have it marked here as an original. That's the thing. That's what I'm confused about.
Yeah, that's maybe they're just referring to it as like a Orlando original, because it is like a Hollywood original. So it's just a house that was done there previously. They've done houses that Orlando's done, and now it looks like they're making a swap because we'll talk about it maybe later quickly. But the Hollywood spec map came out, and they have Scarecrow on theirs. Mm-hmm. So it looks like they're starting to just like trade ideas and originals and stuff like that. So the Curse of Pandora's Box is a Hollywood original. It's been done twice. We could probably watch walkthroughs, and I don't have much to talk about other than that, but I was always like, intrigued just by the idea of it, and I kind of don't want to watch walkthroughs.
I wouldn't because I don't want to get
spoiled.
Right, I don't want it to be ruined.
So I want to kind of leave it as that mystique. But I'm excited that it's here because that was something that would pop up on the Hollywood maps that I would have been like, huh, that looks interesting. Like I'd be interested to go towards that house, being that it's an original for them.
Yeah.
So that's really all I have. If this thing sticks and that's where it lands, it looks like when we do Stay and Scream, that'll be the first one we hit if we do the same thing we did last time. So who knows? Maybe on the episode on September 5th, we'll say.
Yeah.
Whatever that day is, we'll be talking about the Curse of Pandora's Box. I can look back to this episode and say, hey, fuck, I called it. So let's skip along now, because now we got some interesting ones that are going to be really vague, I think. So we're going to F, and that is where... These are where our two favorite tents always tend to land. So F is where Wicked Growth was. So this house needs to fucking deliver, because it is stepping into the halls of a goddamn champion.
I mean, not only that, it's like every original, unfortunately, has to live up to the previous originals, because it seems like there's at least one original each year that wins Best House. Yeah. That's just arguably the best house they've done. So you're right. So like it has to step up, but at the same time, you're right. It also has to be, you're going into, everybody is expecting a lot because it seems to be that there's always one original that happens to be in that area
and just knocks
out of the park. And these are in the hurricane tents. They're not even in like big buildings.
No, they work with what they get.
Right.
So over in that area, we're looking at what is called El Chupacabra. Interesting. It looks like they're dipping into the cryptoids a little bit.
Yeah, it's weird because like I don't know how. Like, who do they talk to? Like, where do they get this information? Like, what makes them think El Chupacabra?
Yeah,
it's so out there. It's so
very random.
It is random.
I'd like to have it like almost like very Mexican setting because that's kind of where the origin comes from.
It feeds a little bit into, obviously we're culturally in Florida, we're very Hispanic. There's a lot of Hispanic. So El Chupacabra is a Mexican. I don't know if it's Mexican specifically. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I'm going to sound super ignorant.
But it's weird. It's like I want to say it's like almost like a walking werewolf.
Yeah, like
it's like a bear wolf thing.
Like,
it's not a Bigfoot exactly. I think it's kind of the Mexican equivalent of Bigfoot in Mexico's history. I could be wrong, but for whatever reason, that's like what keeps ticking in my brain.
Yeah, I don't want to sound super ignorant, but I guess it's basically it translates to goat sucker.
goat sucker. Okay,
Yeah.
something. So it's like something in the hills that's like feeding off of
Yeah, so
off
it's
the
almost
wild
like
goats.
it's almost like Yeti, but a different take on it. And didn't we kind of talk about this a little bit?
We did. We
And
talked about
when we
breaking
talked about-
into these like pseudo
like cultural, like what do you want to call it? Like
they're not
folklore.
folklore.
Almost.
Yeah, I was gonna say folk stories,
like
but yeah.
the Yeti from different parts of the world.
Yes.
And it's basically what this is kind
It's,
of
you know,
doing.
we got that. You could do like the big. We talked about the
You could
Bigfoot,
do a
Loch
Jersey
Ness.
Devil house. You could do the
Yep.
whole many things you could do.
So it is cool.
Maybe they're listening to us.
I know, right? I wish.
If you're listening to us, give us a shout out.
Yeah. But this is another thing that because we mentioned this, we kind of opened that. Not that we opened the door for these like
we
urban
did.
legends.
I'm totally taking. I'm
Yeah.
totally taking.
Well, this is
credit
what
for
it kind of follows. It's like urban legends, and it's like, is that now going to continue being a checklist thing? Netflix property, monster, high movie, musical artist, and urban legend. Like, is that going to be the next little box to check off?
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, in that sense, what you were
Hopefully
saying about
not,
early,
but-
that's what it seems like it's going down the path.
It's like I hope not, but I hope too, because all those things I do enjoy. But it's like
but there wasn't.
I just don't
there-
want it to be predictable.
But there wasn't a Yeti type house this year.
no, and that's
so
why
it's not necessarily.
Yeah.
Maybe they're gonna have ideas that rotate. So every couple of years, you have a different version of the same
Well,
thing
and
from
that's like
somewhere else.
they had
but-
the urban legends La Llorona. Like this could
Yeah.
fall into that category of urban legends El Chupacabra.
right.
Similar thing. So I'd be excited to see this. As far as like what the house or what the story is going to be like, what capacity, I don't know. I hope it's like a very wooded house. I mean, if you look at the maze that Wicked Growth took us on last year, it's very twisty, turny. There's a lot of close areas.
Yeah.
The scares are very like in your face.
This one's gonna be kind of hard for me to really picture until we get up to it up close, because my thing is like when I think of El Chupacabra, I think of mountains, I think of out in the open,
Yeah.
in the woods. I don't think of tight squeezed corners,
Yeah.
like in like, you know, being claustrophobic. I don't think of that.
Yeah.
So again, that's also because I'm super ignorant to the folklore. I don't really know much about El Chupacabra, so I don't know what the story
Do my
is.
reading on this mythical creature,
Yeah, I'll have to look
the
some
goat
stuff up.
sucker.
But like,
But no, I would expect too, like you said, like hillside, open, like big
Yeah.
space with in that house. I would be curious to see how they do it, but they did it with puppet theater, which is the same really build of the house essentially. So
yeah, I mean you're right.
there
I
are
mean they
ways
did
to
they
open
did
it
way
up.
to do it. There are ways to make it feel open and more big, but
But I expect some tight woods areas.
Yeah.
You're gonna be with like these fake trees. Something will be running through the woods.
right, yeah.
You hear the leaves. You'll hear stuff like that.
You hear goats.
Yeah. I expect this to be like the gore house. Very gory, very ripped up, very like decimating. Like
Probably.
I wanna
There's
see,
definitely at least one other one.
I
think
want
that-
to see goats, corpses. I want to see everything.
There's there's another one coming up that I think will be pretty gory too.
Yeah. So let's move along then to G. So this is where puppet theater was, and this is the one that I am the most like unsure of. I don't know what this is. It is simply underground creatures. I got very little for this. Maybe it has something to do with
strange.
maybe it has something to do with like Hive from a couple years ago.
Maybe.
Maybe it's a completely new take on something. I really don't have much to go on. Underground
I mean, maybe
creatures.
they're gonna.
Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
Is it
could be. No, you're right. It could be like messed up, like
sewer
Ninja Turtles,
rats?
super alligators, something like that. I guess.
Like is it creatures animals? Is it creature? Like,
Yeah, who knows?
Is it like weird bat people?
I mean,
like
this one's very vague. There's so many different things you could do with it.
yeah.
Vampires. I mean,
Trapped underground. Is it like? We just had that house literally last year was. The theater was trapped underground, and we're
Right.
back to underground creatures. Like,
Right. Yeah.
puppet theater sequel. Like, what do we just keep the fucking thing going?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, this one is definitely
It's interesting. It's an
vague,
interesting thought.
very vague.
It's an interesting thought experiment because like it could be anything.
Yeah,
But my
door's wide open.
initial thought is vampires of some kind or
Yep.
some sort of thing. I hope not because that's boring. Like
Vampires are boring.
vampires
Sorry.
have been done a
Sorry
million
if-
times. They're boring. I'm not a huge fan of vampires. I'm not a huge fan of the I Am Legend vampires, which don't like the sunlight and they hide underground to get away from the sunlight.
I want to suck your blood.
But when you think underground creatures, you think what hides underground because it doesn't be out in the light.
I'm hoping more like sewer oriented, like city. Gross.
That would be cool. I'd be down for that. Like do like an urban
like
setting.
Rat people.
And you go
like,
under the you go underground. You go under into the sewers and you deal with like rat mongoloids or something like that.
It says original, but I was saying underground creatures. What if we had some sort of like quiet place thing?
Symbol, yeah.
Those
is that
thing or what was
or
I
mole men?
Like,
Yeah, like some sort of mole men type
would be
thing.
Cool. It'd be cool if it was like a mining house, something to do with mines.
Going to a mine. Yeah, that makes sense.
Underground. I mean, drilling, mining would be cool, and that's where you can really get the tight quarters and stuff like that. And then maybe if you, they're usually not wrong with the locations, but if you did underground creatures as like that tight mining house, and you had El Chupacabra as that open house, and I mean they're the same size, I assume, but if you flipped them, to where El Chupacabra, the open house, is where Puppet Theater was because it had open things, and you had underground creatures, the mining thing, where Wicked Growth was. Those kind of line up a little bit better because Wicked Growth was more tight.
I mean, they're the same tent, so I mean, they can probably make it work
if they follow some of the framework. I don't know, but that's what I thought on that. So underground creatures, I kind of talked myself into it if it is in that mining aspect.
No, I'm interested because.
But right now, I don't have much to go.
There's not a lot to be hyped about because you don't really know where they're going to go with it. But if they do underground stuff, they could also play with the whole like removing senses and messing with your senses in the sense that like they make it dark and it's hard to see, or they make you go through tight spaces, or they use those big butt things where you have to like walk through like the air things to make it feel like you're squeezing underground. So there's a lot of ways you can do it, a lot of things you can do with it, but yeah, it's not enough for us to be like this is the one. All right, H, this is where Haunting of Hill House was, I believe. Hill House was on the left. I believe so. Okay, either way, the Evil Dead series. Yeah, this is based on the series, right? Or the movie.
Don't know.
Because it looks like the movie font, but then
I think it's the movie.
Because the show is Ash versus Evil Dead.
Correct.
This is just the movie The Evil Dead.
I don't know what to expect.
Was this in Hollywood by any chance? Do you know?
They've had houses in the past. They had Ash versus Evil Dead. I believe they had an Evil Dead house before.
Yeah.
It's definitely a cult hit. It's not my favorite by any means.
Anymore. I think it's just a favorite of most horror fans.
It's not like one of my like I hold it up. It is a fun watch though. It is, if you haven't watched it in a while, it is very fun. From what I remember, it's a quick movie. It's a quick in and out, simple concept, one and done.
The new one's weird. It's compared to like the original. It's not quite the same. Yeah. But same idea where it's wacky, gory. This is where the gore I think is really going to be. One.
And it'll be interesting too to see what they do because like you had Evil Dead, which was like this very campy one-stop shop in and out horror movie, and then you had like Evil Dead 2, which like Sam Raimi went like crazy and just had like this ridiculous concepts, and then he did Army of Darkness, which is like even more like
also great
ridiculousness. So it was like if they go with Evil Dead, it's definitely more campy horror versus like that schlocky like comedy aspect where Evil Dead and Army of Darkness kind of falls.
But if you think about it, out of all the ones we have on here, we don't have a goofy funny one.
No, which I mean, the Evil Dead isn't.
This
so like
could be part of it
into. So I'll be curious to see if it's like Evil Dead series.
Yeah,
they won't do. I don't think they'll do Ash vs Evil Dead because they just did that recently-ish.
Yeah.
So if they're gonna revisit,
that's why I'm confused. This one, it's this what makes the Evil Dead relevant right now? Like they haven't released a new movie in a while. Do they have a new one coming out?
I think they have. I think they are redoing Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2 is also going to be on its 35th anniversary.
Oh, okay, so maybe there's some relevancy to it, but
like I think, I mean we're this far into the list, and the only IP really that's like strong horror was Fear Street that we've talked about.
Right.
There hasn't been a strong horror IP present.
As of right now.
But I think the Evil Dead, it falls into that like solid number 2 slot of like, you can't have the Evil Dead be your number 1 IP. Like you just can't. It's not that big.
Right.
It's not your Jason. It's not your Michael. It's not your Freddy Krueger. It's just not.
Yeah, and it's basically zombies again.
It is.
I mean, it's really what it is.
So if we and that's disappointing too with like that and The Last of Us, We have 2 zombie houses.
Right, and I think
they're
that-
boring as is.
I mean, it's again, granted, take this with a grain of salt. It's only Spec Map version 1. This is obviously going to change a little bit.
Yo, yeah.
So, right now, there isn't a lot of strong IPs that we've seen, other than maybe one that's on here. But yeah, who knows? We'll see what happens. I'm more interested to see that. Like, as of right now, like I said before, there is no like goofy, funny, like not easy going
Gremlins.
But yeah,
A little Gremlins boy.
Yeah, right. Like, we don't have a Beetlejuice. We don't have a Ghostbusters. We don't have a Gremlins. We don't have something where it's like Killer Clowns, where it's like gory and scary but fun at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's lighthearted. It's not as in your face as everything else is. So until we have something like that on here, I'll be surprised if they go 10 houses without one of them being kind of like that.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe they're still working on setting up some other IP that they haven't gotten the rights to yet, or they're still trying to set something up to get it nailed down.
Yeah.
So who knows? And again, remember, these are speculated maps from people that don't work for Universal.
Yeah.
So
take it with a grain of
knows?
salt,
Take it with
but
a grain
we're
of salt.
judging what we got. Location I,
Done.
over in the back where Beetlejuice was, and that is Halloween. So that is big. The door's open. Let's see what we got. So we were on a street.
Halloween 3 or nothing.
Yeah, right.
I'm putting my foot down
If it's
now.
not Season of the Witch, we riot.
If it's nothing but it cannot be anything but Season of the Witch.
So
I'm putting my flag in the ground, saying at this moment, in this juncture.
16, 18. Got it. We were on a streak of like Halloween houses.
Yeah, I don't remember any of them.
So yeah, and I
didn't go to any of
and
them.
I didn't catch all of them either. But at 2014 there was Halloween, and then at 2016 there was I think Michael Returns to or Helen Haddonfield or Michael Returns. There was another Halloween house.
Yeah.
At 2016, and then at 2018 there was yet another Michael Myers house.
Yep.
4 Curse Michael Myers.
Yep.
So they were on a streak of like 2014, 2016, 2018, 2020. It was like, okay, so we're only off by 1 year. So this is like definitely a property that they have the easiest access to. Freddy and Jason rights are like in the air, just based on where their film rights land. I don't know about them, but I know that's why they haven't really had sequels.
Well, I still think the Halloween is owned by one group of people or one person.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, that entire series is owned by the I don't know if it's Yablonsky or somebody. From the time the first one came out till now, somebody like owns the rights to all of them, so it's probably easier to get a hold of them.
Yeah, and that's why they make
Whereas
so many
Jason's
of them.
so up in the air, and
Jason is who knows where. Freddy, same thing. They're kind of just they got lost in translation when those rights got purchased and stuff like that. And that's why I think they dip into that well so often. Same thing with Leatherface. That's why we got him last year, because he is a well-known name in the horror movies, obviously. Same thing for Michael.
well, you just said there wasn't a big, strong IP.
Here it is.
Until we hit this.
And this is a big location.
This is
for
the
it.
draw.
This is a very big location. Over in those same areas where Beetlejuice was, you can build out the entire Myers house. Now, the question is, what Halloween are we going to get? There's 2 questions, but I'll ask just that first one first. I know a lot of people have said that the rights to the new movies are hard to get through Miramax, so I think those ones...
Good.
Yeah, right? I think those ones will not
Sorry,
be...
I have the strong opinion of not being wildly impressed by the new movies.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. Sorry. Sorry. Don't attack me. Don't at me.
So do we just revisit the first one again? Being that this is the 31st event, do we just revisit Halloween 78?
If you want my opinion, I've never been through a Halloween house, a Haunted Myers house, so personally I'd be pumped.
Yeah.
But if they've done it a million times... Like, I mean,
they have and they haven't. You know, they've done Michael a handful of times, but like I said, the 4th one was mostly like Halloween 4, so like they visited the house a little bit. The 2nd one was like hospital and stuff like that. So like, yes and no. We haven't been to the Myers home in a while.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at, I guess.
So they haven't done like Michael's original home
Not
in a while.
since 14, which at this point is going to be 9 years removed.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that if they're gonna do a Michael house, I think I would rather it be an original 77, 78 Halloween. Don't do the new ones. Not that the movies were bad; they were. Just because.
But it's not doing anything new.
Yeah, it's not new, and if you're gonna do Michael, I'd rather the original Michael, the Michael that I fell in love with as a kid, not the Michael that
just walk in his footsteps again.
Like I would rather that, just because the mystique and the greatness of Michael Myers in the Halloween movie is that it's very little gore. So I don't want gore in this house.
Don't need, yeah.
I just want the spooky ambiance, the music, and
the
him
scenes.
in the yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Give me the scenes. The new movies are too gory. They're too over the top.
Yeah.
Where you'd be getting basically a Jason house, but with Michael.
Yeah.
That, and again, I'm sure I'm in the minority there, but that's just something of a personal opinion.
Yeah.
I think it'll be original Michael. I mean, if the rights were easier to get, then yeah, for sure they're gonna do the new movies because they're new and everybody remembers those.
Well, I think those ones are hard. I think those ones are almost like essentially what people are saying. I don't know who people are. I'm just taking, the words of the internet.
The internet.
Probably too serious, but it would make sense that those rights are a little bit harder to obtain, just based on the film distribution. But the other question is now, maybe this is just a placeholder because there is also another strong IP that is pretty much just based around a masked killer in a house. And that would be Scream. So maybe they are trying to get the rights for Scream. The build on the house would be pretty similar. This is kind of what happened with in the past. They had like a Conjuring house that fell through and they just pretty much turned it into, it's blanking from me now, but they flipped it pretty quickly into something else that was similar-ish. And I think that's what happened to Scream at one point too. It was supposed to happen, it didn't. They flipped it into something else. Maybe this is a placeholder, and then if they get Scream, they get Scream. If they don't, they have Halloween to fall back on.
Yeah, I mean, you're very well possible.
Different paint job, and you're done.
Yeah, I mean, so here, let me say this again, and no, I'm not just trying to be funny. We know that there was going to be a Halloween 3 house. We saw the props. They were actually going to. They were building things
Hollywood
for that.
Yep.
It could very well be that the reason they put this on the spec map is because they know that there was going to be a Halloween 3 house, and it fell through or something like that. So maybe that's just here, like you said, as a placeholder because they don't really know. Yeah. They don't really have a whole lot of information to go off of. So they're just guessing that maybe Halloween will be back in some form or capacity. I'll say it again. Halloween 3, god damn it.
Season of the Witch.
Season of the Witch.
We've been campaigning this for
If we don't get a Halloween 3 Season of the Witch house and I get Halloween Michael Myers, I will begrudgingly go in it happily and enjoy myself like a child
and love it.
Still be upset that it's not Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. So I mean, please,
it's the 31st event. Like, they marked it still Halloween.
Well, that's
Halloween.
exactly. That's actually a big. You bring that up. I didn't think of that until you just said that. But it is the 31st event.
Yep.
Halloween is on the 31st.
Yep. So it would make sense either way for this movie.
There's a number of ways that they get to this information.
Halloween makes perfect sense for a Halloween.
So again, it's speculative. So they may have just put that there simply because it makes a ton of sense to have Halloween be a house on the 31st event.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps that it's the 40th anniversary of Season of Witch, 35th anniversary.
Oh God, I'm
forget what it was.
Cracking my ears
blanking
now.
on it, but there's a lot of things.
What was it, 83? 78, 79, 82 maybe?
Yeah, so 82. So it must be the 40th anniversary. So the point is that there's a lot of things kind of revolving here that would make sense, but we won't know until we get more information. So I hope to God that we do get a Halloween house. To me, that's going to be your biggest IP draw. That's what they're going to theme it around, probably. I would assume so.
My last question on this is, if it's Season of the Witch, is it still the biggest IP drop?
No.
Oh,
at that point, it changes. Yeah, no, you're right there. Dude, you're definitely right there.
Because that's the only thing that scares me about it being Season of the Witch, because I want it to be, but are their IPs strong enough?
But if Fear Street's true, if that's actually going to happen, that's what they're banking on being their biggest draw.
And our next one may be the biggest draw.
Maybe. I don't think it's what they're banking on. I think they would still bank on much like Stranger Things was. That was the big one everybody talked about because it was such a big property at the time. Yeah. I think people love the Netflix stuff, so they just bank on Netflix bringing in the crowds. But you're right. Who knows?
So, Jay, which is now no longer in the Shrek Theater.
It's gone
Jay
now.
is over at the Fast and Furious charged line house location, maybe.
Did they have a building back there?
Never done a house there
That's interesting.
that I know of. And that is going to the Weeknd.
Not Saturday and Sunday.
No,
No,
E.
the artist,
Well, there's
The
two
Weeknd.
E's. There's only two E's, not three E's, I guess.
Right. There's a week and then
The Weeknd. The Weeknd.
The Weeknd.
I know he
The Weeknd
performed at the Super Bowl. I know he does a
did.
song that was on Monday Night Football for every single
you
time.
know him more than you know him more than you think you do.
I've never listened to him willingly. I have no real frame of reference. I know who he is.
Which is
I've seen him perform.
interesting because he actually, again, this is like the Billie Eilish thing. Like,
Yeah, this is the same discussion.
it's gonna be the same discussion.
Just replace
And
musical
don't take
artists.
this as I don't like them. I actually enjoyed Billie's early stuff. I'm not a big fan of her poppier stuff now because I think it's too by the numbers bubblegum pop. But I liked her stuff, her darker stuff. I think that she would have been a great visionary for a house. Again, we talked about
I
this.
feel like we bullied her out of having a house, and now I really wish I got to see what the house is
Well,
like.
I don't say we bullied her.
not we-
but COVID bullied her out of a house.
or our nights.
But we weren't exactly. Well, I mean,
We definitely weren't
I don't want to
campaigning
make it
for
sound
her.
like we were. Yeah, you definitely weren't campaigning for her. I, for a fact, was
Whoops.
intrigued. I
Fucking
wanted to see what
whoops.
happened because I know she's a fan. I know she goes every year, and I know that she would have brought a lot of things to the table. Now, the difference with The Weeknd is, again, I like his music. I like a lot of his songs. I think he's a great artist, especially his first couple records. He makes less sense to me than Billie Eilish does,
Yeah.
or did. A lot different because Billie Eilish plays up that aesthetic of being spooky, alternative, weird, not straight pop music, or at least at the time. He's darker, he's different, he's not like a traditional pop artist, but I don't know. Again, I'm not a Weeknd expert. I don't go out of my way to listen to pop music. I listen to more, obviously, metal and punk and other type of stuff, pop punk, but I just don't see what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I can probably get back to this in a couple of weeks. I'll probably do my due diligence and research a little bit.
I want to know, again, where
did
does
this come
Halloween
from?
Night Nightmares get this from? Who did they talk to? Because
Yeah.
you're going to talk about the post you sent me earlier.
Yep.
That obviously maybe wink wink confirming this.
Yeah. So, from my little research that I didn't listen to him. I didn't watch music videos. I've seen images, obviously, from certain music videos, so I get that. The one question I have is, like, so every single artist that's that big obviously has a bunch of music videos. I'm sure one of them is bound to have something sort of scary in it. Is
Right.
that now the determining factor that, oh, well, they are spook?
So this is where I think where I was going with it. This is not. We want to again. I want to make this very clear. We're not bad mouthing The Weeknd.
Yeah.
So anybody that's listening to us that likes The Weeknd,
Strangling.
I'll say again. Do not come to Spooky Empire to yell at us because we don't like The Weeknd. I like The Weeknd as a musical artist. I am confused, much like Nick is. How is he relevant to horror? And maybe somebody can explain it to us because we don't know. I mean, like I said, I've listened to his music. His first record is relatively dark. He does that song like, I don't know the words and I can't sing, but like I'll just say that the music on his first record, or at least I think it's the first record, it's darker, the dark lyrics. It's not horror by any means. It's not like Rob Zombie, who makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Because he makes movies.
Yeah.
And he makes horror music.
Yeah.
The Weeknd doesn't do that. And again, I need someone to explain to me that where I'm wrong. Like maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like,
But you're right.
just rock music. Like you can have horror,
But it
R&B,
has
horror
to
pop too.
be relevant, and it has to be not just hey, he's a huge artist who sells millions of records or gets millions of listens on Spotify, and we're gonna get people to come because of that. No. You need to explain to me and show and prove to me that he's actually a fan of the genre, and even if he is, that isn't a determining factor.
How is that shown?
Right.
Yeah, and
why are we wasting one of 10 houses on someone who doesn't necessarily build an audience around the horror stuff? He's not a horrorcore artist.
Yeah.
Like you want to have someone. Why not do a Tech 9 house?
Yeah.
Tech 9 makes more sense than The Weeknd.
Yep.
Or
Misfits.
Busta Rhymes, early Busta Rhymes, Misfits. There's so many other artists out there that I think make sense. Like Billie Eilish made sense in a way,
Yeah.
because she was a darker artist. She had that darker aesthetic.
Yeah,
she's changed.
That was her whole thing, and that's why I think the house got swapped out because her persona changed.
Yeah, and that's
but
what
then
I think
her persona
happened.
was
When
that
she-
dark, broody,
Right.
angsty,
So when she went full
whatever,
platinum blonde,
yeah,
letting everything hang out, pop artist, that obviously changed,
Yeah.
and they obviously weren't going to do anything with her at that point. But I need to know, and again, we have very little information, other than maybe a tweet here or there.
Yep.
We don't know what has he acted in anything?
and we'll have to do our research. Maybe we're wrong. I'm going to look into it.
I should have looked it up more, I guess.
Yeah,
But
I'm going to look into it and see what the deal is. But that is my question as well. It's like, what is the determining factor? I know that he is part of the XO label, which is his own label, but operates under Universal.
yeah, it was
So
a
it is a
Universal artist.
Universal
Another
artist.
one, like Billie Eilish was too.
Yeah,
or is too.
there's the connection there for you. The one thing too is like, does it trickle down? Are they like, hey, we need a top tier musical artist, do this, and then creative just writes a team, or creative writes their own stuff?
He has 102 actor credits. What? They must be kind of the music videos.
Probably music videos,
That's
probably
totally why,
TV
yeah.
appearances.
Yeah, okay. I was like,
I'm sure he's been on SNL.
That
I'm
is
sure he's been
insane.
on all kinds of stuff like that.
yeah,
but
it's music videos. But continue.
you know,
Sorry. I don't mean to cut you off.
You're fine. I think that yeah, right, burping mic. I think that the names of these people on these houses doesn't mean that they made this house or they wrote this house or whatever. This is still Horror Nights creative coming up with a house themed around something, whether it was themed around his music, themed around his a music video. They're gonna pull a story out of it. I don't think he's gonna have input in it. He'll have input, but he's not gonna make it.
That's the thing where I think you and I disagree. I'll concede the point that yes, it's not him specifically creating it, but we got told on that tour. Like for example, Netflix has very much control over everything that goes in those houses.
Yeah.
They have to approve everything. If you think that they're going to sign The Weeknd, who's a multi-platinum artist who sells and gets listens all across the world, that you think he's going to have zero input on what goes into his name, I can't imagine.
So I don't think he'll have zero input, but I don't think he's at home.
No, I don't.
Jotting the idea
but that's what I'm worried about. Is that
he's coming up with something.
I need to know what it is he's done. Like I know I found this something again, this some short film called The After Hours. It was like his album, and the album cover is spooky. It's him looking up with blood coming out of his mouth.
Probably. I mean, it's probably kind of like a thriller thing where it's like
extended
music video. It's like a long video,
and that's fine. Like if that's the case, then they're gonna build something off of that. That's great. Mm-hmm. But how many? I mean.
How much can you do?
Well, the thing is, I don't. Like you said, I think what I'm worried is that like every year now, like you said, they're gonna have one house totally reserved to an artist that happens to have some spooky imagery in a music video.
They did one video that
right. And
was,
I think I'm just
spooky,
reiterating what you said, but you're right. That is a concern for me because I don't want it to be, hey, we need to waste a house when this house could be something else
on some big
another
Universal
original,
artist.
another good original that we can use.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing too is. And I'm glad you kind of sparked my memory with this. Is yes, there was supposed to be a Billie Eilish house. Guess what took its place? Case Files. What would you rather have?
Right, exactly.
Case Files or a Billie Eilish house?
Right.
I would 100 times out of 100 take that Case Files house because it was beautiful and it was probably one of my favorite houses. Definitely top 3 from that event. So that's the thing that like people might lose sight of, and it's like, no, we're not bashing this person.
No, we're not at all. Like
but what I'm saying is, when you hold it up, you had the two options. You had Billie Eilish or Case Files. As an HHN fan, I'm going to pick Case Files.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
I'm with you, too. And I think the other thing we're not thinking about, too, is that I don't know if it's necessarily Universal going to this person and saying, hey, we think you'd be great for a house. Yeah. It's the person coming to Universal and saying, hey, I love Horror Nights. Can I do something with you?
Yeah, I heard you do this event thing.
And Universal's obviously
you heard we do this event thing.
And Universal's obviously going to be like, you're The Weeknd. Of course we're going to work with you if you really want to.
Yeah,
like,
we'll
that's
give you
silly.
One. Yeah.
I mean, obviously with guys like Rob Zombie, they probably had to go to and say, hey, we want to use your movie. And then Rob Zombie realized what it was and was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. If you ever want to use my stuff again, let me know. We'll definitely work something out.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take like.
And this is not me saying rock is better than pop. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that Rob Zombie makes sense.
Yeah.
He makes horror movies, or he did.
Yeah.
And he makes horror music. Have you seen his videos? Did you see his Scare Zone? It's one big wacky music video of all his music.
Yeah. Like, where does this fit?
Again, I need to know where the Weeknd fits. And now I'm going to go home, listen to a whole bunch of Weeknd music, and I'm going to look at a whole bunch of Weeknd videos and go, where the hell are they pulling this information from?
Yeah.
And you're going to make me do that because you're all going to be like, he's good. What are you talking about?
Yeah, like, I get it. He obviously has a bunch of fans. He's very extremely popular. There's no downplaying that by any means, but
and I'm talking to you, Johnny, because I know you're listening to our episodes now, and I know you're going to be the one person that goes, dude, the Weeknd's the man. What are you talking about? And I feel like I know he's good.
He's cool, man.
That's not what I'm talking about.
But yeah, I'm gonna take a less harsh stance than I did with Billie Eilish because I think I've learned my lesson. To just kind of calm down. Maybe the house won't happen. But yeah, I think, and
well, even if it does, I'm gonna give it its fair chance.
Oh, for sure. I'm not boycotting anything. I'm gonna be there and I'll go through every house.
I just need to know where it came from. That's really. I would love to know.
I'd love to learn it.
Who said something, or where did they get the information, or where did they see what dropped that they were like, oh, that's related to the Weeknd. Like, what did they see?
And it could be an amazing house. It really could be.
Who knows?
But like you said, the biggest thing I want to know is and this is with everything in life. I need to know the why. I have to know the why.
Yeah,
I don't do anything blindly. I don't do a task without asking why.
And to be honest, who knows? This could end up becoming just a scare zone too.
Could be.
With his music.
Or they made a deal so they could use it for Marathon of Mayhem.
That's true too.
So Marathon of Mayhem took a little bit of a back burner last year.
Right.
It was okay, but it was really good in 29.
Right.
Last year's was not so great. Why? They didn't have that 80s music. They didn't have that recognizable Ghostbusters theme. They didn't have those major tunes.
So who knows?
This could fill the void.
All we know is that they could have seen something on something that said the Weeknd and immediately assumed it'd be a house.
Yeah.
I mean, they needed to fill a spec map. I get it. So I'm not jumping the shark yet. I just if he really is going to come in and do something, I need to know what it is. Mm-hmm. Are we going to talk about the tweet?
We can mention the tweet
because the tweet it's on his official page. It's a blue check. It's a blue check.
It was him. So Horror Night Nightmares put out their spec map, and then they tweeted out saying, "But the Weeknd isn't horror," but it's all in like different caps.
Basically, they knew what we were gonna say.
Yeah,
they were like, "This is for Nick and Shamus because we know this was gonna say."
And it's 4 images of like creepy looking stuff, but like we said,
but again,
anybody can have a creepy video.
But but are those all from?
I'm assuming these are from his music videos or a music video.
No, because one of them's go back to the one on the left. Isn't that what's his face? Oh no.
No, this was like this whole when he did his fake plastic surgery thing.
Alright, so this is music. I'm thinking it's like.
But he looks like Looksy.
I'm thinking it's like an American Horror Story.
It looks like it, but I couldn't tell you if these are from one video, multiple videos. I don't know. And they tweeted that out, and The Weeknd quote tweeted that.
He did. Blue check. Blue check.
Blue check.
It was
he put
actually
a little
him.
stabby emoji, blood emoji, eye emoji. So I mean, I don't want to jump
take that for what you will
and say that it's confirmed, but
I mean, it's pretty.
I think that's something like that is this big.
Yeah.
I think if it wasn't confirmed or it had a chance of being gone, I don't think they would have put it on the map because they wouldn't have wanted to get people's hopes up, or they wouldn't have wanted
and that's
people
why
panicking.
I say, like, you know, these guys know more than people want to let on.
Yeah.
Like Universal may tell you, oh yeah, don't listen to the speculation. They don't know what they're talking about.
There's a couple things wrong.
There's usually things wrong. No, they're usually pretty right.
Yeah.
Obviously, we just proved it this in this episode by showing what was on the first spec map from last event and how close they were. So.
They're more right than wrong.
They're more right than they're wrong. I'm not going to say again that this is confirmed, but you know, I think the fact that it's here already and the tweet confirmed. The tweet is the tweet. He tweeted himself. I mean, let's be honest.
And he's somebody that I think is probably a little detached from the Horror Nights world. He probably doesn't know what announcements are and stuff like that. So he's gonna be like,
well, he is detached.
Yeah, sure.
He is detached from the community.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not trying to say that he isn't a Horror Nights fan. He probably is. He probably goes regularly to the Hollywood one. Who knows?
Maybe.
And he probably is a fan. He probably likes horror movies. And if those are music videos, I need to go watch them. I didn't realize. So maybe he's more spooky than we realized.
Yeah.
We're giving him. So who knows? We'll see what happens. I'm not saying that the house will be bad. It could very well use his imagery and put warped versions of his music over it.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I like that stuff.
It'll be very interesting. And like I said, I'm not going to poo-poo
half the reason I like the Us movies because of that warped version of I Got 5 on it. Like,
well, that's what I started. I was singing Blinding Lights the other day because they dropped a Ms. Marvel trailer.
Oh, true.
For Marvel, and they used like a redone version of that. And, and honestly, that song, it's like the only song I know, but I really love it because it does have like that 80s synthy stuff.
Yes.
Like, I'm in on that.
Yes, I'll
That's
tell you
huge for
this
me.
much that like.
But again,
his
it is a
last
very
record
obscure pick.
gave me Stranger Things vibe and a little Stranger Things vibe a little bit with that like the whoa, whoa, like the very 80s synthy heavy. So yes, who knows? We'll see what happens. I think.
But it is an obscure pick.
It's just interesting.
Very
to me.
out. This is a very out there pick.
Yeah, and some will be like, it's not out there because this is the reason why. We get it. I understand. I'm not going to keep saying it, but like, yes, I think it's out there, and I want to make sure that, or not make sure, but I just don't want, like you said, this to become one of those things where, hey, one of our houses or one of our things has to be a musical artist.
Yeah. I don't want to fall in that rabbit hole, and that's the thing that scares me about this map overall. I'm very happy with this map. Don't get me wrong, I love.
I am too.
A lot of this stuff.
To be honest with you, there's no utter fails.
No,
like, there's no utter. I'm so not into that.
No.
Like there's none of that. There's a couple that I'm on. Like I'm not quite sure, but I'm still interested to see what they do with it. If it's something they stick with, if it's true. And then there's a bunch that are like, oh, I'm so down.
Yeah.
Like I'm honestly more intrigued by the Weeknd than I am the Halloween one because if we know that it's Halloween 1,
I know,
we know
then we're
we
going
know
for the Myers house.
we know what we're getting.
We're getting the closet. We're getting the
yeah.
I mean, overall, this event looks fucking amazing. I'm very happy with it. The Chupacabra and the underground creatures really intrigues me. I can't say that like it super sparks my interest a bunch in those two. But they could change a lot. Seaside Village definitely has me. Pandora's Box has me. Fear Street has me. Mummy and Wolfman has me a little bit.
I will say, as like a final thought on the whole map in general, I do think that at least one of these IPs is a cover.
Yeah.
Because right now we have 4
if I had
originals.
To pick, so we'll do this. Quickly pick 2 that you think are the 2 most likely to be gone, to not happen.
To not be there?
2 that probably, or not probably won't happen, but 2 that you think are the least, 2 that are most likely to leave this map. Because I have my 2.
Mine is The Evil Dead and The Last of Us.
Okay, mine's The Last of Us and Halloween.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
I think The Last of Us doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me right now.
Especially if
it's 2 years after the game came out.
Yeah, and the show.
It's a year before the show comes out.
Yeah, the show is getting pushed, and I think that maybe they put this together before the show got announced that it's getting pushed back. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that one. I think we both agree definitely is not going to be here in 2 months. Like we're definitely going to see something different.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong.
No, I don't think you are. I mean, who knows? We won't.
Yeah,
we don't know.
We won't. We'll know at some point. We'll know in the fall
eventually,
or when the next backpack comes out. But like we said, the HHN Nightmares are pretty good, but nobody's 100%.
No,
this thing is not going to stand
because again, they not. As
things
far as
change.
we know, they are not talking to people at university.
Yeah, things change.
So they're getting information from other sources and.
The only thing I really don't want them to change is Seaside Village. Keep that, make it. And I will.
Yeah, honestly,
this event.
I never once have at least in the 2 events that I've been there, have downplayed or poo-pooed an IP. So, not IP. I'm sorry, original. So give me all the originals.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we lose at least 1 or 2 of these IPs and replace them with originals.
Yeah, and that's the thing though. Like IP, I mean, the IP is really. I mean, I don't necessarily count Mummy and Wolfman because it's like Universal, so it's like that pseudo sort of there. But I count Fear Street, Evil Dead, Last of Us, Halloween.
To me, it is an IP.
Just 4
because they're existing property, even though Universal owns them.
Yeah,
but they're existing property, so they're still an IP to me. They're not original, but. Again, like I'm interested in an Evil Dead house, but I'm not going to be super sad if it doesn't actually happen because I don't see how it's relevant right now. I've said it already. Yeah. I don't think it's really relevant.
Same thing with Last of Us. It seems like a year too early or 2 years too late.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I want Necronomicon here, but
right?
Besides the point. And then obviously, The Last of Us doesn't make any sense for it to really be on here in the sense that the game is old, and the show isn't coming out yet. So who knows? We'll see what happens.
All right.
Other than that, I don't know.
So, before we wrap it up, we're just going to do a speed talk on the Hollywood map. We're not going to go into depth.
I'll just let you name them off.
Yeah, we're not going to go into depth
and I'll quickly
about
just
these
say
things
something about it.
Who knows, but we'll just point out some fun things. So, we got a Universal Monsters The Mummy house. We have the Evil Dead house. We have Scarecrow. We have The Weeknd, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Nope, La Llorona, and then the Terror Tram.
Which is always there, right?
The Terror Tram's always there, yeah. So, interesting. the IPs that are here, besides the Evil Dead and The Weeknd, I guess, or whatever, Nope and Killer Clowns are like Hollywood exclusive, which is cool. They had a Killer Clowns house as well previously. It's interesting that they're doing just The Mummy and not Mummy versus Wolfman.
that one. I think to me that's the
maybe
biggest
a space thing, maybe a costume thing. They don't really go as big over there.
I don't know.
They're more IP driven. Nope. I mean, we have not much of an idea about this movie. We've seen a trailer.
Yeah,
it looks
that's
like it's
weird.
aliens.
I think they just saw Jordan Peele new movie, put it on the map because it might happen.
So
I don't
we'll
think
see.
it's gonna happen.
That might drop. Scarecrow. That'd be super cool to get over there to walk through their version of Scarecrow.
Yeah.
And that's what I mentioned
might
earlier
be
with
the
the
only-
Pandora's box thing.
Right.
Like, we got Pandora's and they get Scarecrow.
Might be the only house I'd be interested in actually going.
Well,
through.
I'd like to do
Out of
Killer
that
Clowns
list?
again. Honestly, I bet their weekend house is better than ours. Being in Hollywood.
Maybe not.
No.
I mean, if it's the same
see.
stuff, if they're just gonna build the same thing and do both sides, it probably won't make
But
a
they
difference.
do usually alter a little bit. So I'll be interested to see. But yeah, that's Hollywood.
Is that La Llorona that the movie or just the?
I think that's kind of going to be their own like
Their own version
story of it, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah. But I haven't looked much into that. But man, today was a whirlwind day. When they dropped that today ? Tweet, I was like, oh shit. And then like 30 minutes later, an hour later, they dropped version 1 spec map.
Not sure if you guys
for
are actually listening to
HHN31.
us now, but we would love to talk to you. I know you guys can't give us a ton of information away, or how you get a lot of it, but I would love to at least sit down and have a conversation with you.
Yeah,
Just
we won't
find
even
out.
tell. We won't even talk about
I just
want to know.
I just want to know like how like where do you? I know that some of your information comes from like construction releases that come in, like what they're building, like what they're working on, and sometimes you can
Maybe it's
parse
just someone
things
that
from
works there and doesn't tell
Maybe-
anybody.
Yeah, I mean obviously they can't tell us that, but I would still love to talk to them just to kind of see what their thoughts are.
They're just hiding. All right, well, I think that wraps it up for this HHN31 talk. I'm glad that this thing finally dropped, like we mentioned earlier.
back to hour and a half episodes. Let's
I
go.
know, right? We crushed the thresholds. But no, this is why we started this podcast. Started almost, and we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary in May.
Oh shit!
May
2
is our
years?
2-year anniversary, so we're gonna start planning a big show for
Yeah,
that.
COVID just like wiped an entire year.
and it was
off the
like we
planet.
had a year. I mean,
We're just gonna pretend like 2020 didn't happen.
right? We're coming up on 2 years, and really, this is our second event. Like, we had a year and a half to talk about
Mm-hmm.
an event that we didn't have. So it's really cool to see that we got this this new map to talk about this stuff. So, guys, thank you very much for listening. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Obviously, our schedule has shifted a little bit, so we will be dropping this obviously Wednesday night. Thursday morning, whenever I finish editing this fucking thing, it's going to be live to you guys because we're going to pump this out as quick as we
Yeah,
can.
we don't want to.
But
We
if-
don't want to wait till Friday.
Yeah, right. But if you are a new listener joining us, this is what we do every week. Every Friday, we bring you some sort of new Halloween Horror Nights talk. And if we don't have anything to talk about, we will find something horror related to talk about, whether it's a killer review, whether it is
An interview
top
with somebody,
10, whether
who
it's
knows?
an interview, whether it's whatever. We have a lot of back catalog, so go on through our back catalog, check some good episodes. Also, shout out to Cody Carson and the boys in Set It Off.
Oh yeah.
Their
I don't know if you're
album that they
listening
just
to us
put
or
out.
not,
Yeah.
but
They just put out their new album Elsewhere. We got to talk with Cody in November.
yeah, go listen to that episode.
Listen to that episode. Listen to their album. Their album was #1 on the rock charts
Yes, it
for
was.
iTunes. So super,
really good.
super kudos to them.
Solid record.
So that's that. Also, we do have our YouTube channel. Please give us a like. Please give us a subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star rating. That boosts us tremendously into the algorithms, and it will definitely help us out. We love getting reviews. We get a lot of interactions on Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that. So if you could just take 2 minutes out of your day, pop open to that iTunes,
You
that
don't have to leave a
podcast,
review. Just give us a 5-star
and just
rating.
give it a little review, a little
if
rating.
you like it.
It'll definitely help out. But guys, thank you so much for catching up with us. This is Nick.
This is Shamus.
Happy
Weekend.
Halloween. Horror
The
Nights
weekend is
31
horror, we get it.
weekend. Songs. Songs.
It's cursed. Cursed. It's got a death curse.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
And again, I would just like to thank Vampire Stepdad for letting us use his music for our intro and outro music. So if you would, just go check him out. Spotify, Facebook. Again, that is Vampire Stepdad.